Hey, girlfriend. Hey, girlfriends. Welcome to episode 2 of the Shameless Ambition podcast. I'm Justine.
And I'm Lindsay.
And today we're going to be talking about our childhood ambitions and how they've morphed and led us into where we are today and how they've changed. And yeah, so all fun things ambition again. So,
well, as with the start with any new thing, you got to tell the origin story, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all starts in a place. I was actually taking the notes for talking about this. I was like, oh my God, so much was coming up. In hindsight, I was like, oh, I didn't have, yeah. So lots to dive into today. We're really excited to be here with you. So thanks for jumping in. Thanks for being here. And yeah, we're just going to dive right into it.
Yeah, I mean, where do we start? Like, it's just one of those things. We've had so many big conversations about where things like confidence, ambition, passion, our drive to, just pursue our big dreams comes from, and it all just stems from how we grew up. And
I think this is going to be a fun conversation for us though, because you guys have obviously heard, if you've listened to episode 1, if you haven't, jump back so you have some little bit of context, but if not, we'll give you the short story. But Lindsay and I have recently become friends within the past couple of years. So we don't really know that much about each other's childhoods. I've had the pleasure of traveling to some of Lindsay's childhood places and hearing some stories, but we don't know the finite details of each other's childhood to a T yet. So I think that there's going to be some information that pops up today that we're going to be like, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Yeah. So, yeah.
You're welcome, listener. Yeah.
I'm excited to have this conversation today. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll just kick it off with, we were literally just having a conversation outside on the deck before we hit record on this podcast about confidence. And I was having this conversation at lunch on Friday with a girlfriend, and she was confiding in me that it's been a kind of lifelong work in progress for her to build confidence. And, I was super sympathetic and empathetic to that conversation and that struggle. However, oddly, I was just kind of born with it, like Maybelline says, right?
I relate. I relate. We have 2 different views, but totally. I love, you can keep going with your story because, I mean, it's
just like it really is possible to just be born a confident person. So. Like, it can just actually be part of your genetic makeup and who you are. And, it's not really something that I ever really had to struggle with in life. My struggle has been learning to rein it in and learning to master the right level of confidence and the right way to show it and the right way to express it. And girlfriends, I have definitely...
It can be equally as hard, right? Because you have so many humbling moments.
Well, I was just about to say, I have ate my fair share of humble pie. I can promise you that over the years. However, it's just... I was so fortunate to have this childhood where dreams were encouraged. I was literally raised with the mentality that I could do anything I set my mind to. And if I was passionate and I believed in something and I was willing to take the time to dedicate to learning it and mastering that craft, I really could become anything that I wanted to be.
I think it speaks a lot to, your family, and I'm not going to go, this isn't their podcast, so I'm not going to go into it about them, but knowing them personally, there was no way in heck that Lindsay or her sister could grow up without the amount of confidence from their mom. But it does. You can't. I meet your mom and I meet your family and I'm like, oh, it's just, but that's so beautiful. I try to emulate that as a parent to give my daughter the confidence that your parents, your family gave you. Cause I think that's where it all starts. Hence why we're going to childhood. But it does start all from that little grain of salt that it's okay to be confident. And then to really and know why you're confident, and
Well, and honestly, thank you for bringing my mom up, because she honestly demonstrated such a, powerful level of confidence for her 2 daughters growing up. The L Bell logo, my sales training company, L Bell Sales Co., has my lips in it in pink lipstick, because growing up, I have all these vivid memories of my mom putting on her lipstick. It was like her final touch. It was like her war paint before she would go out and do anything. And I watched her put herself out there. I watched her be shamelessly ambitious and, just be so successful in the process. And she really laid the groundwork for me to just honestly try everything, like just put myself out there. And
well, she is everything. Like literally, and again, I'm not going to go into it, but sometimes we'll be in conversation, Lindsay will be like, oh, my mom does that. Like she's literally trained. And I'm like, just she, you know, but it starts with your foundation. So where I'm a little different is I've actually struggled with confidence my whole life. And just, I don't know why, but I've always been, lots of people look at me and they're like, you shouldn't be, but I'm like, well, I am. I walk into the room and I feel like the least confident person. It wasn't until I truly found who I was to me and what mattered to me and what my passions and my goals and my ethics and my morals were. I actually really had to define that for myself. And then from there, my confidence built because I had confidence in who I was, because I knew who I was. I believed in who I was, whether that it had nothing to do with education or skill, but just morally, ethically, whatever I felt who I needed to be as a person came from me knowing who I was as a person. So how can you be confident in who you are if you don't know who you are?
That's right.
Right. So I think it's just that process of really like finding our true authentic selves. And then I think the confidence, if you don't already have it, just comes naturally from there.
What was one of the biggest confidence building moments that you experienced growing up? Like when you think back on your childhood and like those pivotal key moments where it was just like, man, you were just like, you were proud of yourself. You knew that like you were doing the right thing at the right time. And it just felt so authentically you.
Yeah. So again, I was jotting down notes the other day after we talked about what episode 2, what we kind of where we wanted to go with it. So I'm jotting down notes just so it's in my brain. And I go back to this moment and it sounds a little hillbilly. So all my hillbilly girlfriends, let's jump in. I was in 4-H. And if you know what 4-H is, it's you raise animals essentially. And they range in the spectrum of what you can raise. I was in beef 4-H and you used to have to walk around and show your steer in a big arena and then hold them there and make them pose really nicely. I don't know. It sounds really weird now that I'm saying it back. However, I had won that year. And then in 4-H also, you have to do public speaking. And I mean, everyone's scared to public speak. I think that's like just for someone to say, I'm not nervous to go public speak, they're probably lying and they're probably crapping their pants. Like, because there's always a level of nervousness. So anyway, I think I was 12 or 13 and we were doing provincial public speaking. So I had made it past my club level and we were in provincial level. And I had got, it was in improv.
Why am I not surprised?
Okay, so
I flair for the dramatics over
so I
here.
draw my thing and I have to walk up on stage, and this was probably at this point the biggest crowd I had ever been in front of, and strangers. So I didn't know anybody, and it was top 10 embarrassing moments. Okay, so I had to go and talk about all of my embarrassing moments.
Oh wow!
In front of everybody.
I mean,
humbling.
That seems kind of cruel. Like, why would they make you talk
so,
about
but,
that?
Okay, this is like the funny story. This has nothing to do with, the question. However, like there was professional photos taken during that because it was provincials and I got them back and I was 12, right? So I was wearing like a training bra. Okay. And I had a really cute like turtleneck knitted thingy on. I don't know. And it was see-through, I guess. In all the photos, you could actually see my bra. So the ironic thing is like my top most embarrassing moment was that moment. Yeah. And I was talking about my most embarrassing moments in life. However, but no, I knew in that moment. So I won actually that day. And I knew in that moment that I was okay to talk in front of people. Right. And my dad had a really cool conversation with me on the way home that day. And he said, Justine, this is a gift. Aww. And he's like, just so you know, and he's like, it doesn't mean you have to take it anywhere in life, but just know that you have a natural gift to overcome that hurdle to talk in front of people and to seem relatable and to seem okay and to mess up your words and be like, oh, sorry.
I'm human.
Or just like have everyone laugh with you because it's okay, because they all know if they were in your shoes, they would be crapping their pants too.
Totally.
So, it's just this sense of, so that was probably one of my first moments. So that I really felt, extremely accomplished in something that was not academic based essentially or school based, like something outside of school. And then I got a lot of praise from my dad. So that was really huge for me, obviously, in that moment. But that was, what about you? I'm curious to hear how you're like, okay, so at age 3, Which I love.
Maybe not so much, but I mean, I used to do a lot of dancing in front of the camera. I have never been shy to, sing and dance.
Which I'm happy you're bringing back.
Because
it makes my
life
day,
is just
so
too short not to have fun like
Yeah.
that. And so music has always been a super huge passion of mine, but from a very early age, writing has always been something that I have just been in love with. I have read thousands of books in my life. I have written thousands of short stories and just random shit. And like, it just has always been something that has just been so naturally a part of who I am. And when I was in, I think it was grade 9, I had a teacher who recognized that I had this particular passion and talent. He had invited a journalist from the local newspaper to come out and do a session with our class on journalism and how to write for the paper. And we had this contest where he was going to pick a winner. We all had to write an article, and this journalist from the Daily Herald Tribune was going to pick a winner. And I was chosen as the winner. And this teacher of mine, his name, I'll never forget it, is Mr. Biggs. So shout out to Jim Biggs. If you ever happen to stumble across this podcast, know that you changed my life, man. And he called my parents and just expressed what a natural talent he saw, that he saw the passion in me, and that I had this potential to be a great writer and potentially a great journalist one day. And because of that phone call to my parents, I had the opportunity to go to writing camp in the summer with the Writers Guild of Alberta. And it was just the first step in my identity as a writer, and that really becoming a part of who I am. And I just, ever since I have established that as part of who I am, it's just always felt so reassuring in the sense that like, I know that that's who I am, and I know that I'm a writer, and I know that I love writing and sharing my thoughts. And like, that's such a huge part of why this podcast is so important to me right now, because it's just like, I have so much to share and say.
we can't sit and type it.
No.
And it's not as fun.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
No.
And yeah, exactly.
This
We want to hang out
better.
with you. So
but your story. So as soon as you said writing, I was like, oh yeah, of course she said writing. Lindsay had a chance. We traveled Northwestern Alberta. We've said that in podcast 1. I had a chance to go to Lindsay's aunt and uncle's house.
Aww.
And she walked me down her nostalgic memory lane. But your aunt, actually, I hope this isn't too personal, I'm sorry if it is, shared a poem that you wrote for your grandma's funeral. Mm-hmm. And didn't know Lindsay's grandma, but I was like in tears with this poem. And I've always known you're a great speaker, and you're a great, like social media posts. You're so articulate.
Thank you.
But to read a poem that she had wrote, it was like, it blew my mind. And I was like, oh, okay.
That was such a special moment.
Yeah.
Such a special day to share with you, because it's like, I don't actually have the opportunity to do that very often myself, let alone to bring my best friend with me and share my entire childhood with her. But yeah, I have books on books of poetry, and there's a part of me that would be slightly embarrassed to publish those to the world these days, because I haven't written one in ages. But like, angsty, 15, 16-year-old Lindsay, like, man, I would sit in my room and listen to the Cranberries and just stew in my thoughts and write some sort of like emo poem about my feelings. And
I think that's so great though, that you had an outlet.
That writing
like,
has always been
a
my
healthy
outlet.
Like, that's wonderful that you found that at an age right before you needed it almost.
But then I've always carried this fear of like, actually publishing my thoughts. And I heard a saying about what it takes to, put a successful book out into the world is to write it as if no one will ever read it. And I have
no holdbacks.
No holdbacks, exactly. And like, that's the book that I've been writing my whole life, and that I literally, honestly, just have to put together. But it's just like,
I ask you the question is, who matters? No,
well,
the people who matter, we're going to read your book and we're going to love your book, because we already love your life. We love your story. We love your journey. So easy peasy lemon squeezy.
Japanese.
All those other haters. I mean, that's all I have to say. That's it.
But that honestly, on the subject of childhood ambitions, becoming a published author has been a lifelong ambition of mine. And so it's just like one of those things where here I am, I'm 37. I have shameless ambition these days, and I just wonder, like, you know, okay, where's that going to take me? I got to just do it.
Well, I know there's a few chapters wrote.
There's several chapters wrote. They're just in random places.
Yeah. No, I know I know you're going to hit that goal. There's no doubt in my mind. I just don't think your journey's done yet.
Maybe
so
not.
I don't think your book's done yet.
Maybe not.
So I just, that's just my opinion. Like, I don't think if you were to release, you know, like a biography on your life, we're not done yet.
Mm-hmm.
And so your book's not done yet. How can you write a book if it's not done yet?
Exactly.
You know? So
that's fair.
We're still going.
One day at a time, girlfriends.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Tell me about your dad and how he fostered your ambitions and your big dreams as a kid, because I know you're very, very close with your dad. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So like, I'm not going to go into the big details, but my parents divorced when I was 8, and I decided to not do what most kids did, and I stayed with my dad mostly at the time because I just was comfortable in my home, in my childhood home. I didn't want to leave that. I didn't want to leave my school and my friends. Me and my dad just ended up getting the best relationship out of it. But I grew up as a farmer, or a farmer's daughter. So we had a lot of land, a lot of cattle. So it was a lot of hard grit work from the beginning. And I wrote this in my notes the other day, and it was kind of like brought a tear to my eye. But probably from, I don't even know, from the time of my parents' divorce. So like 9 or 10, all the way leading up to 16, 17, I thought that my life, to go a little back, I'm from a small town. Dreams they're big, but they're not that big. They're not worldly big, you know? So I thought that my destiny, my future, was to work on the farm and then marry a farmer and then keep working on the farm and have babies and then give the babies the farm and then retire. So, which is great. I mean, I'm not crapping on that at all. There's so much work that goes behind a farm family that like no one, I mean, I could do a whole 2-hour episode.
Cheers to the farmers.
No, so like that's not actually me saying it wasn't like good enough or anything for me. That's not it. It wasn't that I couldn't hack it.
Yeah.
So that's literally what it came down to is I watched my dad suffer and I tried to help him. You know, my grandma, like it was a generational thing of just this up and down is so freaking hard to do. And I knew it wasn't for me. I knew that my anxiety, my level of nervousness, it just was no go for me. So the farm went up for sale.
Yeah.
And my dad wanted to retire and he offered it to me and I said, nope, which was a really hard discussion for us. But then he's like, okay, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
So if this isn't what you're going to do, what are you going to do? And I was like, well, that's the first time I think anyone's ever asked me that.
Yeah.
And going into college, I don't know. So I took business because it was open. And I was like, everything's a business. So this should surely apply. But yeah, I mean, again, we can get into that in a few minutes, but later on leads into where I found myself. And then I can go back into those hindsight moments of being like, I really did want to do that. I just didn't know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's just it, you know, as the saying goes, hindsight's 20/20.
Yeah.
But I feel like our dreams and ambitions are an ever evolving kind of thing. And I don't think that they should be something that it's just like, just because you decided today that this is who you wanted to be, when you achieve that, maybe you want to be something else.
Could you imagine if we were all what we wanted to be at like between that 5 to 7 age range? Because I'd be a marine biologist. What would you be?
When I was 5 to 7, like a Hollywood actress.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to be about to say astronaut.
No, I was always just like mesmerized with the camera and just like movies and music and just like such a performer.
Yeah, so, that's amazing. Yeah. But yeah, if we could like, do you know what I mean? That like one first goal we always had. Yeah, everyone has one. And they're usually like these pillar things. But.
Girlfriend, we could still be rock stars in our life. There is
not me.
Time
I mean, you guys have not heard me sing. I'll be the backup dancer. This is
you'll be the hype girl.
Lindsay's all the music. Yeah, it's all good. I appreciate music. I just suck at it. So that's okay.
Oh, dude, I went to the Bryan Adams concert last week.
I was supposed to go.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I should just forewarn the public that I'm an extremely obnoxious person to be at rock shows.
No,
because I just can't sit down.
It's like you're an energy. Man. Yeah. Well, why would you sit at a concert? Just watch it on TV if you want to sit in a concert.
max level energy and excitement for me. I appreciate live music so unbelievably much that it's just like, I grew up in a household where I was always surrounded by music. Like my brother is an incredibly talented musician. Aunts, uncles, my mom can play the guitar. Like, I grew up singing. Like,
you guys have no idea. Actually, like, it goes down to like kids, cousins, uncles, aunts. Like, everyone can like play an instrument. So I'm waiting for the bell or whatever family reunion where it's just like this big giant like orchestra or people, and I'm gonna just sit there. I'm gonna be the fangirl in the front, being like, woo!
And I just like, honestly, I'm so grateful that like that was so encouraged in my family to sing loud. You know,
so loud.
My dad always said to me, honey, sing with great exuberance. And like, it just, it was something that was highly encouraged. And
do you want to know what's crazy? Just pops in my head.
Lay it on me.
My dad, I've heard him sing once in my life, my dad. And I asked him, actually, this is as an adult, I've said, Dad, like, I sing and it's bad and that's okay. But I know it's bad, but I sing because it feels so freaking good to sing, right? So we're singing and I'm like, Dad, I know you know this song. Come on, sing with me. And he's like, no, I won't sing. I'm like, okay, come on, let's do some inner child work. Why don't you want to sing, Dad? And he's like, I got made fun of once when and this was like, it broke, I actually was in tears because it broke my heart, but he was made fun of when he was a little boy for singing because I got the singing gene from him. I think he sucks too. But so anyway, but I think he got made fun of for it, and then he was just like, never again, and I'm not gonna sing ever again. No one's gonna hear that voice, and that broke my heart.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, you'll never sing again.
Right.
Like, we should always sing. If there's a lesson in this podcast, just keep singing. Instead of keep swimming, just keep singing. It's okay. We, like, 95% of us suck.
Well, and it just, honestly, it doesn't matter. Like, singing and dancing just feels good.
And I can sing Aspen to sleep, shitty voice and all. Like, she doesn't care. It's just the good vibe of singing. So, but so, to go back, so I'm typing out these things. And I'm like, Justine, where was your first ambition? Like, it stumped me a little. And then I was a little upset with myself of being like, oh no, which is great. Like, these are great conversations that I'm now starting to have with myself that maybe I would have never had. But I go back to this memory and it's pretty lame, but I'm going to share it with you. So we used to have a bunch of VHSs because if you don't know what that is, it's a video on a tape. Sorry, I just realized how old I sounded because they weren't even DVDs, which I'd still have to explain.
For our younger listeners.
Okay,
FYI.
So my dad he was a movie buff, so he had all the VHS. Anyway, so he had all the VHSs. So I would get all of our TV trays, like all the things in the house that I could to set up like stands. Mm-hmm. And I would make like a Blockbuster in our living room. So again, to the young kids, Blockbuster. You used to go rent movies for like a couple days. It was the best. Like Netflix, but in a store. I don't know how else to explain it. But I would set that up and I was an only child technically. I have siblings, but they're so much older that I was raised alone. So I would play by myself and my imaginary friends, and I had a video store and keep going. And I had all these moments of like remembering playing by myself, but I was always running a business.
Oh, really? You were entrepreneurial. Yeah.
So fast forward to hindsight to where I am sort of today of I own a business. And my husband and I started a business together, but I didn't ever know that was my ambition. And I went into business. I got my BA. So it's like, I didn't ever know, but I knew. Like, I think I knew, but I didn't ever really know. You
know what, to your point about you weren't sure what to take in school, so you took business.
Yeah.
I just want to reinforce that exact same point. I did the exact same thing.
But it was great because everything is a business.
So useful.
So,
those skills are so useful, so productive. I originally went to college.
It'll get you a job anywhere.
Yeah, exactly.
Honestly. And not maybe in the best position, but it'll get you a job anywhere.
Totally.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, I originally went to get a Bachelor of Arts and then carry on to become a lawyer after that. And I got there and was just like, I'm
in the wrong part of arts.
Exactly. So then I took a semester of music, which like...
The right part of arts.
Yeah, exactly. Except I was just busy partying all the time, and my voice was not in incredible shape at that time of life. And when I went back the following year, I knew that I just needed to get a business education because it would apply to everything. And
that's
it really
why I took it.
And it does. And
it was
so,
that or educate, like a teacher, an
Totally.
education degree. And I was like, okay, but education is education. Like I'm stuck and not stuck, but that's my stream.
Yeah.
Is teaching in some capacity. And I didn't know if that was 100% what I wanted to do. And when I looked at business, I was like, okay, Justine, logically, everything is a business.
Yeah.
A college is a business is a business, you know, like everything is a business.
Exactly.
A charity is a business,
Yeah.
even to its like fine points, right? So I feel like it could apply anywhere. So that's why I took it. But.
Did you like work throughout college and university? Did you
Yeah.
waitress?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I mean, grateful. Shout out to my dad if he listens to the podcast. He probably won't, but if he does, I mean, my dad did pay my rent,
Yeah.
so I will give him that shout out. So that was great. I didn't have to worry about my rent, but I still had to worry about, I mean, every other bill and my tuition. And I got student loans and did it the way everyone else usually does it. But I partied a lot of my student loans away. I'm not gonna lie. Like I look back and I'm like, did I really need 40 grand in student debt?
You know
and I was
what?
like, no, but we had some great parties.
Totally.
Like,
Me
and
too.
some great memories and some really great friends. And I'm still to this day, like, really close friends with two of the girls I went to college with. And I don't live near them, but we talk nearly every week and we keep in, and they're a couple of my best girlfriends. So college is wonderful.
And it was worth it. Everyone
It was.
Those
You get to do really
student
fun
loans,
dress up
totally.
nights. And you know what?
I
The
loved
student
the
loans, they
dress up
give you a
nights.
long time to pay it back.
Yes,
They
yeah.
do. They're really graceful with it.
Well, it's like, you know.
And student loan isn't bad debt.
No.
Actually, like I was informed that when someone looks at your credit score and they see student loans, they don't factor in it as bad debt because it's good debt. Because
Exactly.
you have an education.
Exactly.
So unless you didn't complete it or something. But anyway, that's a
I
story
think
for
it's
another
so
day.
important for kids to work while they're in school and just like, you know, continue to grow their responsibilities. And, you know, my parents paid my tuition and all my books, but I had to pay my rent and all my other expenses. And
so both of our parents helped in some capacity,
Totally.
but it was still on us in other capacities
well,
to
and it's
figure
like,
it out.
I worked as a waitress in Grand Prairie during the heyday.
I was Red
of,
Deer.
Like, it was a boom in Grand Prairie, and it was a very
Yeah.
profitable time to work in that industry. And if you would have told me at that time that my business card would eventually say financial advisor, I would have laughed in your face because I had so much fun at that time of life.
And
Like,
mine's
it was
different. I
just-
came out of high school in the recession
Oh,
and I was a server in the
right.
recession.
I forget
because
that.
we're a few years apart.
Yeah.
So, but not many. But
Yeah.
it is the difference between literally her serving in a boom where
Yeah.
people were like hundies, and like me serving in a recession where it's like quarter. And it's okay. Like, I mean, we all do what we can, but I still had a great experience serving.
Yeah.
I'll never do it again. Serve.
No.
If you need to. Like, I mean, Lindsay and I have had this conversation that we truly believe and our children will have to work in the service industry in
Absolutely.
some capacity before they graduate college, because I think you need to.
Yeah.
Because we all use the service industry and you need to know how it feels to be treated like crap. So you don't treat people like crap. Like, honestly, at the end of the day, to give them some grace, because it's a true thing.
That's fair.
So anyway, it's great to be a server. And if you're still doing it, kudos to you, because I couldn't do it. I actually got fired because my boss told me I had a resting bitch face when I went to tables,
Aw.
which is okay. I did, because I didn't want to be there.
Right.
But it's
Fair
okay.
enough.
So I own a business now.
Yeah.
So it's fine. But it is, it was a hard career to be a waitress.
So, okay, you just mentioned coming out of school during the recession.
Yeah.
And I can picture us both in two very different stages of life. Justine was graduating from high school. I was graduating from university at that time. So both facing hardships in such a crazy way. What did you want to do when you came out of high school? Did you know?
I had no idea.
No.
I was pretty blind. I don't know if I was in a bad space. I think I was just in like a growth, being on my own. Like, I had just moved out. I was on my own, and that was fun. And so just getting to, like, you know, learn life a little bit. And I graduated from Red Deer, so a bigger high school, but growing up in Delburn, I don't really think I put an emphasis on education.
Right.
To be honest, I was like, okay, like, yeah, you get a degree and that's your job. So what? So maybe I'm going to take 2 years and not have a career, and then I'll go get a career. So that was kind of my mindset. And then I was like, oh, I need a career.
Aw.
Like, I really don't like serving. And I kind of worked in a couple of jobs and didn't really find my passion. I knew what I was good at. But I just didn't know. So I knew it was time to go to college. And then obviously I continued serving. I worked at a couple car dealerships, worked in like landscaping, which I didn't actually do the landscaping. I did the bids.
Yeah.
So, like, but anyway, I had a kind of wild ride of careers throughout college. And then when I came out of college, I met my husband, Tyler.
Right.
We weren't married in college, but throughout college, I met him, and we got pregnant, and then we were like, hey, let's start a business. And I was like, okay. So it wasn't his dream. It was his dream, not my dream. But I was so down to build this business, and we got to build it from the ground up. So I got to build like the HR, the safety, the protocols, the procedures, like everything was built through me. And that I found so much passion
Absolutely.
in, because it was my husband's passion. And then it became my passion, and we started getting employees, and, it just started growing. And then eventually to a couple of years later, where it got to the capacity where I had to back myself out because I did not have the education or the experience to do that job anymore, which is great for the business. But yeah.
Well, I mean, being the CFO of the size of company that you and your husband own
it wasn't in my repertoire.
Large job. It's a very large job. And
also like really stressful. And it just led to my husband and I fighting too much, that it was like our marriage or the job.
Yeah.
And we chose marriage.
Of
obviously.
course. Absolutely.
So,
easy.
Yeah.
Too easy, like
it was a no-brainer.
Well, and do you still feel comfortable with just, how you helped build this business and what you helped create with your husband, but shifting your priorities to the family? Because I know that it's just like, you have so many other passions as well. It's like, you've built this business, and the cool thing for Justine and I is that we get to work together side by side as community ambassadors for their business. Great. We organize events. We talk to local organizations. We speak on behalf of the company at public functions. And this business is so innovative and so cutting edge.
It wasn't until I came back into the business. And so this is like, she doesn't know how important she is. But I talked about in episode 1, you've lit up my life, and you've continued to keep it light even when I'm dark, which is hard because I'm usually the light in people's lives. But Lindsay was like, hey, and like, she's a community person. She's a people person. She's such a great person. Anyway, so my husband had this idea for an event, and tickety boo, here we are. We're working together side by side. But it's the best position I've came back in as a business owner. And so I struggled for a long time after I backed out of the business. I'm still a business owner at that point, but I never felt like a business owner after that. I felt like we cut me out so hard and so fast because we needed to for our marriage to survive, that it was like, all of a sudden it was like cold, like, let's remove her so we're okay. And then he just stopped kind of communicating with me about the business because it was too stressful for us. And I didn't have a role in the business anymore. So what was the point really of like, minus like his thoughts, obviously, and worries. We talk about that, but day-to-day stuff, we just really wouldn't talk about. And then I eventually felt like this gap between us because I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on, and this is your life, and I feel like our lives are just too separate. And so anyway, Lindsay and all this stuff comes together, and he's like, you need to be in the community. That's what makes you happy. And I'll go into it later. We need to talk about Lindsay for a little bit, but community, philanthropy, that's my vibe. And I found that passion after I had my first baby, but coming back into the business as that has been monumental, not only for our business, but for my marriage, because we get so excited about the business instead of hating it now.
Well, and honestly, girlfriend, you have stepped back in such a beautiful, authentic, easy, natural, cool way. And that's who you are. Like, that is literally who you are. And it has been an honor and a pleasure to be a part of this journey with you and your husband, because I love everything about your business. I love everything about working with you. We literally have the best conversations of life. And
her and Tyler get together, and I just sit there and go, their creative brains just start blowing up, and I'm like,
special bond. We're buddies. We're just two creatives that have, mega ideas.
So I'm going to circle it back to you. I want to know how like the ambition for El Bal came about. Like, so I know your story a little bit. I know we're like on the clock, but I just want to know how like how your career progressed from coming out of college into the recession, like we talked about. And I know you've done a few things. So if you want to share about that and like how it led you into El Bal eventually.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's a really great story because it really does kind of explain why I've landed where I've landed today. And, you know, coming out of college in 2009 was a crazy time. Here I had this incredible bachelor's degree. I had worked so hard to get it. And I just figured that with that piece of paper, somebody was just going to give me a wicked job and
good paying,
wicked
benefits,
like
lunch break,
$70,000 a year, like exactly. But unfortunately, it was a really, really tough time to be out job hunting. And I think I went on something like 30 interviews that summer. And I did get offered a few positions. However, it was either not enough or too much, or like it was just, there was always something where it was just like I was overqualified or I was underqualified. It just didn't make sense for where I wanted to take my career. And so I spent the following 9 months after I graduated, waitressing again at Earl's, local restaurant here. And, you know, it's a hot spot for business professionals. And I knew it would be a great opportunity for me to network and meet people. And it was through that waitressing job that I was able to secure a position as an account manager for the Rock radio station here in Grand Prairie.
Which we both have in common.
Exactly. We both work for radio stations. And, but yeah, that's where I really fell in love with sales. I had always been in sales my whole life, whether it was selling shoes at the local athletic store or, you know, slinging drinks at the bar. I've always been in sales, but that's where, you know, having the title of account manager and actively seeking out business and
on the relationship, because I feel like selling shoes and serving, that's a very short-term relationship. Totally. But when you come into more of like that mature sales role in like a radio company, that's like a client. That's like a rapport you have to build. So it's more than like a hour-long relationship or less, you know?
Totally. It's not transactional. It's relationship selling. And I had secured myself that nice cushy salary and benefits. Yeah. However, 3 months later, an opportunity came up for me to sacrifice my salary in favor of a commission-based book of business. And I took one look at that client list and was like, yeah, I'll do it. This is a risk I'm willing to take. I can service these clients. I can take care of them. I can build this book. And I just killed it. I killed it in radio. And by the time I was 25 years old, I was making 6 figures selling radio advertising and creating relationships that still serve me to this day. Still to this day, girlfriends. Those relationships that I cultivated at 25 years old are still paying dividends
and
today.
They have served you in every career change.
Every career change.
I mean, not all of them, obviously, but there are clients that you have pulled from your old,
well, it's like,
you know,
I had a client when I made the decision to leave radio and just kind of level up my career in a way that I felt was a, you know, vertical move for me as a sales professional. And I got my insurance license. I broke the news to one of my radio clients that this was what I was going to be doing. And the very first thing he said to me was, congratulations, Lindsay. Let me know as soon as you start, I'll move everything over to you.
Yeah.
And just like immediately
you already built that relationship of trust.
Totally.
Like they trust you. They know.
So happy to support me. And from there, I spent 8 years in financial services, continuing to build these relationships, building new ones.
And I'm not going to say like, no, not more high caliber, but just a lot more high stress.
Complex, more technical, that's what bigger numbers.
Yes, thank you for the words, like exactly. My word was not right, but yes, that's what I was meaning. Is just a lot more detail and like life insurance,
right? Yeah, exactly.
Around with that.
You know, I went from having meetings in local coffee shops to having them
corporate
on the 48th floor of some skyrise in Calgary. You know, so it just like it was definitely a vertical
conferences and speaking at conferences.
Exactly.
And, you know,
So you know, my time in that industry was incredible. I loved it. I was so passionate about it. I still am passionate about insurance. I'll express that passion for the rest of my life. However,
appreciation.
That industry lacks you know, a certain amount of color that me as a person just naturally has.
Color.
Right? Well, I'm wearing all black right now, but like,
but she changed so she didn't match me. Like, yeah. I'll vouch for that because we were too matchy-matchies.
And I just felt like I needed a creative outlet. I loved what I was doing, but I needed some way to just feel creative, fulfilled, inspired. And to me, that came down to sharing my knowledge and experience in sales with women so that they could be successful.
Yeah.
I have only ever been paid on commission in my life. Every dollar I've ever earned has been a direct result of my best efforts. And I just feel like I have so much to share with women who are out there selling, ambitious women who have something to sell.
And we talked about this earlier, like we touched base on it a little bit of like, why you're so passionate about women and women being shameless and women in sales. And like I said, we touched earlier because unfortunately a lot of times we have to bark a lot bigger than our bark to be seen. Mm-hmm. Do you know what I mean? Or we have to do a lot more work to be heard. And it shouldn't be, but Lindsay's done it for 20 years. Like,
I mean,
so you've just went through the experiences. I think like if there's anyone to speak to women in sales.
Well, and to be honest, women have historically been some of my toughest customers. And so it's just like the fact that I have learned to treat them with respect and to honor them as the intelligent women that they are, and to meet them where they're at, and to listen intently and actively to what they're saying to me. Like, it's just like, I've spent a lot of time with women over the years, and it's just important to me to help break down that barrier that we have between women sometimes. Like, it's just not necessary, girlfriends. Like,
well, it's not. And I mean, you just said it. You said it to a T. It was like, I have to show up with so much kindness and understanding, because as women, most of us feel like when another woman's approaching us with something, it's a target, or they're insulting us, or they're trying to be better than us, or like it's a competition. It's just like an instant guard up, like, alert, cute woman coming. Like, I need to be mean, or just whatever it is. Like, you know, it's just these, innate things that we shouldn't have, for sure. But that's, again, why you should speak to this forever, because you've just experienced so many of the situations. You've come away with so much knowledge and learned so much.
You know, back to your question about Elle Belle, I was driving to Calgary on just before New Year's Eve one year, 2 little kids in the back seat. Roads were terrible. It took us like 15 hours to get there. It should have taken us 8.
And you were going to see a friend.
Yeah, going to visit my best girlfriend to spend the week and celebrate the new year together. And the whole way on this drive, I was talking to my husband about the power of online training and online courses. And we talked about my sales experience and the situations that I have to share and the challenges that I faced and what I did to overcome them, and just what I've learned,
all the things.
Exactly. The good, the bad, the ugly.
And
it's just like, man, have I messed up sometimes, but I've also had some massive wins, and I do know how
to dance parties.
Exactly. So that was the seed of Elle Belle Sales Co. I went to my friend's house in Calgary. I told her and her husband all about this idea for this sales training for women. They were both immediately stoked. We literally spent the next week just like brainstorming together. I sat in my girlfriend's basement one day, and she just sat on the couch next to me reading a book. And I sat there on my computer smashing away, just like hammering out all of my ideas for Elle Belle Sales Co. And it just really started to take on a life of its own from there, because I couldn't stop thinking about it. I would wake up in the middle of the night and have to come into my office and write down my ideas and fill out my whiteboard. And it just evolved at such a rapid rate. But then almost immediately after establishing this business, I had a big launch party. It was incredibly successful. COVID hit. And, right? All of a sudden,
we're not going to talk about that. That was
COVID. Okay.
That was the only one time we give that motherfucker a plug. And I'm going to swear in that moment. That's the only plug.
Okay. So I'll gloss over that. But that year,
you can tell this is unedited.
That year, I really got to a point within myself as as a saleswoman, as a professional, as, you know, an ambitious woman, as a creative woman.
We have to dive into you.
Totally.
I mean, like, there's like a lot of shitty things we can say about that, and I could go on and on, but there was a lot of time for introspection and growth. If people took it. I mean, it was a hard mental space to be in, but if you took it, there was a lot of time.
It rocked my world. It honestly rocked my world. And as much as I had to sit and stew in some really uncomfortable feelings that year, it gave me a lot of clarity. And it
also reshaped the online world. Totally. I think a lot, like opening it up for, like, as you were saying with Elle Belle as being like online sales.
But also, you know, my sales training is designed to teach women how to sell face-to-face.
Oh, for sure.
In person.
For sure. Yeah.
And so I launched this right before this year of, like, you can't see people in person. And so it just, like, I felt like I had this kind of, like, catastrophic loss of identity.
But it wasn't your fault. It was it was
exactly.
Just, like, fate.
But yeah. And so anyways, it just, like, I went through a kind of life shakeup, and we'll save that for another podcast, but it put me in the position to pursue my passions with Elle Belle Sales Co. full time. And that's why I'm here today, because I spend every day hanging out with cool people, doing cool stuff, planning cool projects, cool events.
Not always me. There's other cool people
mostly
too. Mostly me, but there is other cool people.
Yeah, there's lots of other cool people too.
Yeah.
So that's the origin of Elle Belle. And I mean, I just feel so grateful and thankful to everyone who's supported me so far. And just, you know, I've definitely had a few non-supporters.
That's okay.
Yeah, but
that's okay. Yeah. I mean, again, that's it. That's them going away in, like, our energy space. Yeah. You know, like, it's okay. Not everyone, again, I said this on the first podcast, not everyone has to like me or us or love the podcast or whatever. That's cool. Yeah. I'm not out there for the haters. I'm just out there for the lovers. So if you're a hater, just pass on. If you're a lover, love on. And that's kind of it.
You love hard, girlfriend.
I love really hard.
So much. Like,
yeah. And that's actually something I've, like, in that growth, I've learned that it's not a flaw. It's a good thing. And
absolutely.
It's okay. It's okay that I love hard and I cry really hard too. It's okay. I feel really hard. So, but the point of this conversation is, and I think that there's points that later in conversation we'll dive into, is that our passions, our ambitions are always evolving. And it doesn't even matter if it's, like, our close circle of life that's changing. It could be, like, the external that we're not ever going to mention again, that changes our ambitions and our passions. Like, we're not always in control, but we're in control of how we react and how we pivot and how we move our ambitions and how we shift and shape. And we're always in control of that. So I think that it's important to know and always remember that it's okay if your ambitions shift, and it's okay to try an ambition and be like, oh, that didn't work. That was thought it a different way. Cool. We're going to go this way. Yeah. It's okay. Like, God, I don't even know. Like, I wish I could, like, sit down all, like, the big inventors of the world, like the Elon Musks and the big brains of the world, and be like, how many times did you fail on just one singular idea? Tell me how many times you failed until it morphed. We even had this conversation at Shameless with Michelle Romanow.
I was just thinking about that.
Of how many times she failed on one singular idea, but that one singular idea and all the failures morphed into this world-class business. Yeah. So, I mean, it's okay that they morph, and I think it's normal that they do, and that's just the regular progression of it, right?
Absolutely.
So, I left On-Site, I found yoga, and I found my life.
Yeah, you
did. I literally, and I don't really teach in a public space anymore, but I found me at its deepest level, but I'm able to take that into the community now with On-Site, you know? So they always come full circle. And I think, like we said earlier, hindsight, like, if you want to sit there as we're wrapping up our podcast here, and you're going to sit there and you're going to end it. And I want maybe to ask you to reflect and, like, think about some of your childhood ambitions, and maybe you'll have some hindsight of where you are today.
Yeah, I think that's such a powerful thing to do, is to just sit and think about what you wanted to be when you were a kid and how your ambitions have changed, and just honor the fact that, you know, what you did want to be when you were a kid is probably actually still a pretty
Oh my God, I still love dolphins.
Right?
Like, a lot.
Who you are.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Swam with them multiple times. So yeah.
But it's just like, I think it's just important to just honor those big dreams and to just be okay with
them. Or maybe bring one back.
Totally. Bring one back.
Did you snuff one out when you were 10 because you thought it was too big, or you 12 and you thought it was too big? It's probably not too big.
Exactly.
No.
And it's just worth chasing with reckless abandon and shameless ambition because man, I feel like we're making our dreams come true every day.
I mean, every podcast we do, I feel I get these weird goosebumps when we come to the end and we're like, maybe one day we'll video our happy dance that we do after, but I get goosebumps like head to toe because, and my grandma always used to tell me, Justine, when you get goosebumps, it means you're in the right place at the right time.
I love that.
So
I love that.
I'm in the right place at the right time.
Well, and honestly, on that note, like, I think we just got to wrap it up on that note.
Right place, right time.
We hope that you are enjoying hanging out with us. We are so excited to release another episode next week. Should we tell them who our guest is next week?
Yeah.
She doesn't even know it yet, but
it's okay. She loves us a lot, so she'll forgive us.
And she's a gorgeous human being.
And she embodies shameless ambition. So I'm sure we could tell her to be like, hey, come over for a drink.
Yeah, we'll call
and then
her
she'll
after
come,
this.
and then we'll be like, hey! No, we'll give her some preparation. But
if you've noticed our gorgeous hair, if you're watching the video version of this, you know, we have the world's best hairstylist.
Yeah.
We are so lucky and so fortunate to be treated like queens by the incredibly talented Shannon Baker. And she is just an incredible person, a wonderful energy, and we honestly are just so excited to have her as our first guest on our podcast. And
100%.
So, let's call her after this and tell her that she's our first guest.
No, we won't put on speaker.
She's probably doing hair right now,
probably
so
is,
exactly. But
we'll call her after and let her know we already announced it. So too late.
She's a cool chick, and you're gonna want to tune in because we'll be talking all about her ambitions and especially her education in her ambitions. Because this woman is brilliant and smart and just inspiring. Exactly. Yeah. Like we can't wait really to share Shannon with you.
Yeah.
But
just for the hour though.
Just for the hour though.
Kidding.
And then she's ours.
Then she's always ours. Yeah.
Okay. Cheers, girlfriend.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining us, listeners. We love you very much and appreciate every single one of you who tune in with us. We'll see you next Friday. Have a great week.